Guys, this is Mark. Welcome back. In this lecture, I will be talking about working with text or strings. There are quite a few things that you can do in Codeless when you work with strings, and in your Codeless logic when you will be working on your actual real applications, whether they are with user interface or backend type of things. There will be quite a few things that you will need to do with strings, and there is a variety of them, such as calculating the length or finding a substring within a string, splitting strings, converting string from lowercase to uppercase, figuring out whether certain text appears in the string and in what index it starts. There are a lot of them, and Codeless supports quite a variety of different things that you can do with strings. So that's what this lecture is about, and let's just dig in and see what kind of things are available to you out of the box and how you can use them to get something useful out of Codeless to actually build your Codeless logic. All functionality related to strings and working with text will be under this text category. And as you can see, there are quite a few blocks here that you can use, and you can combine them and apply conditional logic and so on. So let's just review them individually and see how they can work together to do something useful. And starting from the top, let's grab this guy in here, and as you can see, it says in text, and there is a variable right here. And in fact, when you drag it out, this variable will be created for you automatically, and you can replace it and put your own variables here if needed. And it says in text, and then the variable name, find, in this case, first occurrence of text. And here's another text. And then this drop down provides an option, first or last. So what this does is it actually determines if this text, which can be represented either as a scalar, a value, some static text, or it could be a variable, is present in the text that is represented by this variable. Simple enough. Let's run a test just to see and kind of feel how that actually works. To do this, we already have variable text created for us when we dragged that block out. In fact, if we go into variables, you see this text is right here. Let's initialize this text to some value and bring a text block in. And that value will be a sentence that says, for instance, today is a great day. All right. Now we will add the print block, and we will connect this thing to the print block. So in here, we will be checking if this variable and the text that it contains, we will find the first occurrence of the text day. Okay. If it is found, then this block returns the index of the character that where the first occurrence of the word day is. By looking at it, when you look at it, you might say, well, the first occurrence of the day is going to be right here. But actually, it is right here. You see, in today, it contains characters day, which is day. And this block should find the first, I guess, the index of this occurrence, of this day part in that sentence, and it will print it out. Let's see how that works. So it prints out 3. So why 3? Well, because the very first character has the index of 1. So letter T is going to be index 1, letter O index 2, and third letter, this D, is going to have index 3. And since the word day appears right here in the word today, it actually starts at index 3. Okay, so this guy returns the actual index, and then you can use this index for other purposes, such as you may want to cut out all the text before or after. You can just cut out that part, whatever the requirement is for the logic that you're going to be working on. Let's see what happens if we change this to last and rerun this logic. It prints out 18 for the reason that this word day right here, that letter D, has the index 18. In fact, it's going to be the 18th character in this string. Spaces are also counted as actual characters. So everything inside of that string every single character, whether it's space or special characters, punctuation signs, whatever they are, they will have their own index. So the last occurrence of this text in this sentence has the index 18. You can easily substitute this with a variable. In fact, let's create a variable, and we will call it text to search. And we will set text to search to the word day, just like we have it now. So in fact, this functionality will work exactly the same way. So now if I go to variables, and I can take text to search and put it right here. So at this point, nothing changed in the way this logic works, but we actually can control what text we can search through a variable. If I rerun it, it will still print out 18 because the logic will work exactly the same way. So that's this block that finds first or last occurrence of a specific text in another text. Let's see what else we have in the text category. Raw text. So raw text is useful whenever you need to print out or use text that has line breaks. In all examples so far that we have used, when we put the text, it was really just a one-liner. But in raw text, we can actually have a special character that will instruct Codeless to do the carriage return. Let me demonstrate how this actually works. So I'm going to put another print and connect this raw text. And in here we can say this and then /n is /n and /n example /n of /n multi-line /n text. Looks absolutely terrible. Let's print it out. And as you can see, every single /n, which is kind of a special thing that is being used inside of the raw text, is used as a instruction to this print block to move any text that goes after to the next line. And it's not just the print block. Whenever you're doing something in your logic, whenever you need to introduce that next line and break your text into multi-line, /n in raw text will do that job. So basically it moves that carriage return, is essentially the same thing as pressing return whenever you're typing to kind of move it to the next line. That /n does that trick. Let's see what else we have under text. You are already familiar with this block, which is essentially text. Now, this one is an interesting. So it says toItem, which really is just a variable, append text. So what we can do is, instead of item, we will use text variable. At this point, the text variable contains a value, today is a great day. So what we can do is we can use this block to add more text to that variable. And here's how it's going to work. And we can say, and tomorrow will be even better. Now, if we print out what the text variable has at this point, you will see the following. So let me grab text. Actually, let me just take it out of here. And let's run this page. Notice that here it says, today is a great day and tomorrow will be even better. And then the reason text is now that long is because we appended additional text to it. In fact, notice that there is no space between this exclamation point and the word and. It just concatenated them together just like that. And if you were to add space right here, then it will be broken by additional space. Not so much broken, but concatenated in a way where there is additional space. So appending text is done with this block. There is another way to append text. In fact, if you go to math and take this block right here, okay, it can also be used to concatenate text together. Let me replicate print and then put this in here. And in this case, I take text And I will also need to add additional text to it. But this block right here out of the box can accept only numbers, but it also can accept variables. So in this case, if I create an additional variable, and let's call it more text, and I will set more text right here to value living in the paradise. So now what I can do is this, is I can concatenate more text with text. And what happens here, this plus sign, whenever you're working with two string variables, the plus character will actually do the concatenation. Very similar as this append. The difference is this append will take this text and append it to the existing variable. In this case, it will take this text, concatenate more text, whatever is inside in the more text, and the return value will be concatenated text. So this one updates specific variable. This doesn't update anything. It just concatenates and returns. Let's see what we got now. You see, this is the entire value now. Today is a great day. Tomorrow will be even better. Living in the paradise. And this string right here is produced by this concatenation. So this is a little trick that you can use to concatenate text together. Is there another way to concatenate text? Absolutely. Codeless provides a number of different options for you, and you can choose which one's going to work better for you. It's going to be more convenient depending on the circumstances. So if you look inside of this text, there is this block that says create text with, okay? And let me demonstrate how that will work. So in here, create text with. Let's just say we will use this, today is a great day, okay? And then we can concatenate anything we want by adding any additional text to this connector. If you need to connect more than two elements of text, if you click on the gear icon, you can add additional items. And you can add as many as you need. In fact, for every single item that I added in here, you get an additional connector right here. So here's how it can go. This one can be just a space. And then in here, we can take a variable, for instance. Here's this variable text. And then another space if we just want to keep separating them with spaces. And then if you want to add some numbers, or if you want to add anything that really has visual representation, you can connect them here. Let me see if actually adding numbers will work here. Yes, it does. So some number kind of doesn't make sense, but this is for the demonstration purposes. And let's see what we got now. So the very last one, we got a today is a great day, and then the repetition of what was in the variable text. And in the end, we got this number, which was converted to text. And then we got this one long text created by this text block. Very convenient. So whenever you need to compose, an email text or something that, has a, let's say if you're generating a CSV file in your Codeless logic, I bet you will be using this one. All right, let's move on. We looked into this one, calculating the length of. So this one is fairly self-explanatory. And if you want to know the value or the length of a specific text, you can use this length of. And by the way, now the longest one that we have is this more text. Actually, is it? No, text is probably going to be the longest. So if we use this text variable right here and rerun this page, the very last one is 55 characters long. So we know that text has 55 characters in it, because length of, that's what it returns. By the way, length of whatever it returns, you can put it in a variable. You can use it as an argument in some other operations. Here, I'm just printing it out for convenience to show you what it actually returns, but nothing stops you from taking that return value and using it elsewhere. All right, let's go back to text. And as you can see here, you can check if this one is empty, which is essentially going to be the same check whether length equals 0. This one determines if text starts with or ends with, or contains. Okay, so this returns a Boolean, but essentially it's an alternative way if you use this one. And this returns 0. It means that it did not find this text in here, which means that this, if you were to use contains and returns false, is the same thing as checking whether the occurrence in the text is 0. So they are equivalent as far as the value. So this returns specific index. This always returns true or false. Let me demonstrate that. So we take this, and in text we can check contains the word, again, let's use day, right? So let's run, and it's going to be true, Boolean value. Now what that means, since you already learned how to use logic, what you can do is you can start using if statements and put this in here and say if text contains, and do something, or if it starts with, or if it ends with. This is just going to be interpreted the same way it looks like on the screen. So this returns Boolean, which means that you can use it in an if statement. What else do we have? Creating text. Now this one, as you can see, in specific text identified by a variable, you can get the number letter from the start, from the end, the first letter, last letter, random letter, in some other specific, well, in this text you can specify the actual index of the letter that you want to get. So for instance, letter number, okay? We know that in this text, whenever we did the first occurrence in text to search, the very first one was number 3, because the word day starts at index 3 in text. So let's use this and see how that's going to work. In fact, we don't need this one. So in text, get letter, and then we'll use number 3. Okay, and let's see what that returns. D, okay? Because at index 3, there's going to be letter D. And that's what this block does. And if you do it from the end, let's see what that returns. It is E. So 3 from the end is going to be E. And let's see why it is E. Because we have modified this text. And in fact, we have so much stuff where I don't even remember what text is. In fact, let's do this. We will print this text, and then from the end, we will get the third one, just so it makes more sense. So, all right, so here it is. This is what text contains. And of course, the third one, the third character from the end, it is E, because the first one is exclamation point, second is letter R, and third is letter E. So that makes perfect sense. Okay, let's move on. We got this one. Now, getting substring is also fairly self-explanatory. So what it does is that it lets you cut out a substring that starts at a certain index and ends at a certain index. This way you can start cutting out text from another text. To uppercase, this one is kind of self-explanatory, and as you can see, you can do uppercase, lowercase, and title case. Let me demonstrate this. So in here, I will connect to uppercase for our text. And let's run this. And as you can see now, the entire text variable is printed out in the uppercase. What happens? Well, it's self-explanatory what it is with the lowercase, but let's take a look at the title case. With the title case, as you can see, every single word, the first letter was capitalized, and that's the title case. All right, what else do we have? Now, some other things are more related to working with objects. We're going to skip them for now because once we start working with objects, we will be coming back to that. Convert to number, we talked about it when we talked about data conversion and coercion. I mean, the type conversion. Generate UUID. Sometimes it becomes very helpful and you need that. And let me show you how that will work. So in here we have generate short or long UUID. What is UUID? I think it stands for universal identification. If you Google it, I'm pretty sure you will see what the full definition of UUID is. Basically, it's a long or short number, essentially a string, that is going to be unique in the entire world. So if you run this is going to be this UUID, okay? And if you run it again, it's going to be something different. So it is going to be generated every single time. It's going to be different. And then it essentially guarantees to be unique. So I think we went through everything in here. Oh, trimming spaces. So trimming spaces, as you can guess, what it does is essentially trims spaces in text, okay? And in here, let me just demonstrate. So you see you can trim spaces on both sides, left side or right side. So here, if I introduce some spaces with spaces, and I put more spaces, as you can see, this is some text that contains spaces on both left side and right side. If I use trim spaces on both sides, then the result of this is going to be the same text without any spaces. All the spaces were trimmed in. This is particularly useful when you want to do some cleaning up for the values that users enter, let's say in the UI. They may occasionally enter a space and you always want to clean it up by trimming those spaces. And this trim spaces block does just that. So I know this is quite a lot simply because there is a lot of functionality related to text and strings in Codeless. And I think we covered a good majority of them. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to add comments and ask any questions. I'll be more than happy to clarify further. But I do hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching this video. And as always, happy Codeless coding.